What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here, joined by Anna, John, and Kev. We are here to preview the Western Conference. We're here to talk about the Central Division, the Pacific Division, our predictions, go through 1 through 7 or 1 through 8, depending on the division. Our thoughts about each team, our thoughts about the big storylines in the conference, like the Predators trying to get back to the Stanley Cup. Can McDavid carry the Oilers to the Stanley Cup, and much more? Guys, what do we think about the Western Conference this year? Is it as strong as the Eastern Conference? Do we see any teams that could potentially knock off the Pittsburgh Penguins this season in the Western Conference? And do we think that, I guess don't spoil it, but do we think that the Predators are going to be legit again this season?
Well, for me, I think the Preds will be back. Do I think they're going to come first or second? We'll see with my predictions, but I don't think so. They're a good team all around. They're probably, out of all the teams in the West, they're probably the most even team throughout. What are your other thoughts, guys?
I actually don't have the Preds coming back into the playoffs this year. Just a little sneak peek of mine. Oh, look at that face that Kev just made.
Kev is going to be angry because I didn't even. I immediately got Kev going because I didn't even mention the Flames in the intro. So that's just something.
Fine. But don't worry about it.
I got the Flames though. I got the Flames. So I got you on that one. But I just think that losing James Neal, losing Mike Fisher are two big losses, not only to like the team skillfully, but like mental losses as well. And the Preds kind of scraped by last year. It was really amazing what they were about to pull off, but you can't just depend on that luck again this year. So this year I don't have them making the playoffs, but you never know. The Western Conference is kind of iffy about who's going to make it and who's not.
Anna, luckily enough for you, I'm not sure if the bandwagon fans of the Predators survived the loss in the Stanley Cup Finals, because we know that they don't have a lot of fans regardless. So, like, hopefully a lot of them just left. I know there's a couple that watch our videos, but I don't know if there's, like, enough for them to actually, like, get you, like, booted off the channel or, like, blocked on Twitter or something. I don't know. John, what do you think, bro? I know you said the Predators are going to be good. But why do you think they're going to be good? Why do you think they're going to be able to withstand those losses?
Well, they still have the goaltending, obviously, with Pekka Rinne. He can withstand 67 games minimum. It's just like all the other top goalies in the league. They still have the defense. I think Roman Josi is one of the top D in the league. I think he's quite overlooked. I mean, I think their offense is still there. I mean, I really like Philip Forsberg. I mean, I know I can see why Anna thinks James Neal that knocks off 20 goals for them. I'll tell you my predictions in a sec, but I mean, I still have them in. Kevin, do you have some thoughts?
I think that there's 4 teams that are clearly out, and everyone else I think has a legitimate chance to finish anywhere from first to bottom. In terms of Nashville, to me, the loss of Ryan Johansson is going to be huge, as well as James Neal. But the way the Western Conference is being set up is, if you have a good defense, you have a chance to compete, and they do have one of the top 3 defense in the league. They have the top goalie. So I think that I'm not going to say anything where I am.
Oh, Kev, come back.
Haven't froze. I'm here. Predictions necessarily yet, but
you're good. You're good. Now go. Now go. Oh no. Oh.
Yeah, I think.
Fuck Kev.
You guys are like, can you hear me?
Okay.
Vancouver to Toronto. Can you hear me? Vancouver to Toronto.
Go.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Preds will be interesting. I'm going to give you a teaser. There is a team that everyone is high on that I think is going to highly disappoint this year. Highly disappoint.
Okay, we'll find out real soon. All right. Let's get to the Central Division. This is the division with 7 teams in it compared to the other 3 divisions, which have 8. But lucky enough for those 7 teams, their entire division is strong except for 1 team. So it's giving you a thought right there. So let's start off with Anna. Who do you have first, second, all the way till 7?
Okay, first in the Central, I actually have Minnesota. I think Minnesota came off of a really strong season last season. I think Kevin's coming real close to the computer right now. I think they could have a pretty good season this season. They have a lot of really key players that they re-signed, and their goaltending was really good last season, so I have high hopes for them. Number 2, I have Chicago. They had a little bit of a rough pass last season, but they got Brendan Saad, and he works really well with Jonathan Toews, so I'm hoping Chicago puts up a better performance this year. 3, I have Dallas. That was one of the wild cards I mentioned last time when we were talking about the East. I think Dallas hasn't been doing too well in the past few seasons, but over the offseason and the rebuild they made and how many changes they made during the offseason, I really think they could be a serious contender. Winnipeg is number 4 for me. That's kind of a controversial one because I don't think that many people believe in the Jets.
Oh, you just wait, Anna. You just wait.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Kevin's giving me some weird looks right now, so I hope I'm not disappointing him too much.
He's probably disappointed in me right now.
But Winnipeg's my number 4. I think they have some really good talent. I think Patrick Laine is going to produce this year. Sorry to John, the Austin Matthews fan over here. But I think they have good talent throughout, and honestly, it's just about the experience and just refining certain aspects of their game. But they're a pretty solid team, not the most solid, but I think they could make it. Number 5, I have the Blues. This is the one that I could switch with the Preds, and I have all 5 of them going into the playoffs. So the Blues have some strong talent, but you never know. Like, they performed well last season, but they did definitely have some downs, and they have certain key star players. If you take them out of the picture, they're not going to do as well. So that's kind of an iffy one, but right now they're at 5, have the Preds at 6, and no surprise, the Avalanche is at 7 for the Central.
Johnny boy.
I have the Blackhawks actually first. I think they're a great season team. I'm not saying that they're not going to do well in the playoffs, but I think Taves and Kane will never disappoint. Those two, and they still have a good D core with Seabrook and Keith. I know they've slowed down, and I think Crawford will withstand them in the season. Second, I have the Stars. I think with Ben Bishop, they actually finally have a netminder in to backstop them at least most of the season. I think the addition of Radulov will help their offense even more than it has been the whole time.
Pause.
Yeah, what's up, Mitch?
Okay, on this channel, I am a huge Radulov fan, by the way.
Yep.
I love Radulov before he was even good, okay? He is known on this channel as the Russian God, right, Kev?
That's right.
Yes.
He's correct.
Russian God. He actually has his own song.
Yeah?
Yeah, he does. It's in French. Yeah. But anyways, continue about the Stars and Radulov.
No, I was gonna say, and I think Jamie Benn's gonna come back with a stellar season. I mean, he didn't play bad last year, but I think you're gonna see a 90-point season from him again. Third, I have Nashville. Like I said, I think they're a good team all through. I don't think the loss of James Neal and Mike Fisher will affect them too much to take them out of the playoffs. I think the goalie and defense, like Kevin was saying, in the West, if you have a good defense, you're going to do well. So I have them third. Fourth, I have the Wild. I think they're good enough still. I don't think Granlund and guys like Granlund and Eric Stahl, I don't think they'll have as good a seasons as they did last year, but I still think the Wild are good enough, goalie, defense. And then fifth, I have the Winnipeg Jets sneaking in there. I think Patrick Laine, Mark Scheifele, as much as I'm a Matthews guy, I still think those guys up front, plus the defense, because everyone forgets about the Jets defense, probably one of the best in the league. They have Bufflin, Trouba. And they have a tandem now that's debatable. I mean, Steve Mason has been up and down in his career, so we'll see how that goes. I have the Blues just missing the playoffs, even though Tarasenko has said time and time that he's going to bring them back into a serious run, but that's what I have.
Kevol.
I have in first place, and I realize before I'm about to say this that I end of them after their sweep.
Sorry, I missed that. Who's first?
Realize I haven't said who said yes. I'm about to tell you.
Oh, I thought you said this team is first, and because is it going to be like a shocking pick?
It's going to be the Avalanche.
It's not. Yeah.
Matt
The Colorado
Duchene
Avalanche.
is
All
going
of
to
a
carry
sudden.
the Avalanche to first place and then get traded?
Okay, we got to talk about that actually later in the show.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, Kev.
So
My bad.
I called them. I thought they were done at the end of the sweep of the Nashville Predators, but they will finish in first as Chicago Blackhawks. And I just look at this division, and I think each team has too many questions for me not to think that the Blackhawks are still not going to be number one. Number two, I do have Nashville. I think that I know that they lost James Neal. They're without Ryan Johansson, but they still have the defense and the goaltending to hang in there. And they have some underrated forwards that no one gives credit for. Winnipeg Jets in third. I think there's a lot of talent there. They excite me. The underappreciated team in Canada. Of all the Canadian teams, I think Patrick Laine is fantastic. I like what John said about their goaltending. I have them in third. I have Minnesota in fourth, just because I think that they have a lot of talent, but I still question the consistency. I have Dallas in fifth and not making the playoffs. Here's what people forget about Dallas.
Okay, so this is a big thing because both you guys have Dallas in the playoffs.
This is what people forget. Is Ken Hitchcock, once he left the Blues went on a roll. They were the best club in the league from February to April and burnt the Blue Jackets. Hitchcock burnt the Blues. Hitchcock is still not – he hasn't really connected with players. He's too old school. Him and Tyler Seguin are going to not get along. It's going to be like Tortorella versus the Sedins you watch. I don't think that this team – if Ben Bishop goes down, this team is done. For sure. I don't have Dallas making the playoffs. I still think there's so many issues in Dallas. 6, I have St. Louis, and the mighty powerful Colorado Avalanche will finish in 7th place.
We might, Kev, we might have to get, I know this will go way over their heads. We might have to get the priest in before even starts for the Avalanche. He may have to eliminate them mathematically from the playoffs before the season starts.
Yeah. Well, we will have to do that for the Golden Knights as well.
Yes, as well. Okay, so my central picks, and then we'll start the great debate. First place, I have the Nashville Predators. Yes, I'm a believer in the Nashville Predators because I'm a believer in what you guys have been selling. And you guys have been selling defense in the Western Conference. I believe the Predators have the best defense in the entire league. I still believe that. Ellis is out for a little bit, for a while probably, and he's amazing, but he'll be back soon. He'll be back, and once he's back, maybe they won't finish first because of that, but I think they'll be like the team from this division that will have the best chance of making an impact in the playoffs, in my opinion. So during the regular season, it may be sketchy or whatnot without him, but I think they'll be fine. PK Subban fits right at home in Nashville. He doesn't have to be the go-to star defenseman because, as John said, Roman Josi is already their best defenseman. PK Subban can play his role, and he plays it well. And people are forgetting, like Anna, you're forgetting that this defense actually supplements their offense. Their offense comes from their defense. How many goals did their defense score? That's just what last season, we saw multiple guys score 12 goals, 10 goals on their defense. And losing a guy like James Neal, who I think is overrated as a Penguins fan. I've seen him play his best hockey with the likes of Evgeny Malkin, but recently he takes too many penalties. He's too tempered and he's too inconsistent. So for me, I don't think that was a huge loss. I do think that Mike Fisher was a big loss, but they actually grabbed Nick Bonino, who's a better version of him, in my opinion. So I think that the Predators are built to sustain success. I really like what I saw from their forwards in the playoffs. I think they have a lot of sneaky, talented young guys in there. You guys brought up the big names like Forsberg and Johansson. They also have, a bunch of those kind of under the radar players that are kind of not known because they're not Canadian or even American, but people forget about them, and they were great in the playoffs. And Rene, as long as he's consistent enough, I think that they will be the best team in this division. Number 2, I have the Wild. I agree with Anna. I think they're going to be a good team. But like John, I also agree that they're going to take a step back in terms of offensive production. I don't think Eric Staal at his age is going to be able to play the way he did last year. I think Granlund may be about the same because he's not old or anything. He's kind of developing into what he is. But they lost Palmenville. I kind of am doubtful that Dubnyk, with his consistency, and is their defense really going to be that great like it was last year? I don't know. 3rd seed, I have the Winnipeg Jets. Yes, sir. Okay, so I like to go bold in some of my picks. I have Winnipeg because this is a team that has everything going for it in terms of, I think Scheifele is an outstanding player, and he's going to be tops in points again. We already brought up Laine. They can score a lot of goals. I think they were 2nd or 3rd in goals last season, and they didn't make the playoffs. The reason for that was because their goalie sucked. He was terrible, right? So they brought in Steve Mason, who's half decent, and just that upgrade alone will allow them to win more close games because they're going to score a lot of goals. Their defense is pretty underrated. Like John said, they have 4 pretty good defensemen. You also didn't bring up like Tyler Myers as well as in there. Of course, we all know Bufflin. So they're big, they're physical, they're skilled, they're young, and I think it's time for them to take the next step. 4th, I have the Chicago Blackhawks. I almost had them 5th, but 4th I have Chicago because I just think they have no depth. They used to have depth like for days. Like they would bring up AHL guys and like just rookies, and it didn't matter who was in the lineup. But I don't think that, and Jonathan Toews his play has gone down every single year for the past like four years or so. Kane is still great. He's one of the best players in the league, but they don't look at their defense. Who do they have besides Keith and Seabrook? They lost a couple of their defensemen. Crawford's still a good goalie, but he's not great. He's not capable of carrying a team. House is hurt, and they're going to lose his two-way play. I just think that they don't have enough depth like they used to, and they're a little bit older, which is concerning. My 5th seed and also making the playoffs, I have 5 teams from the Central making the playoffs, is the Dallas Stars. Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, like you said, the additions of Radulov, also the addition of Martin Hansel. That's going to be big for another center, a 3rd-line center, because they already have Jason Spezza as well. And I don't mind their defense. Like, they have an okay unit, and I think Klingberg's going to take a huge step. And Ben Bishop is a huge add for them because, like the Jets, they needed a goalie. 6th, I have St. Louis missing the playoffs. I don't know. They're a team that I just don't see it. I think they're really banged up at the start of the year, and that's going to hurt them a lot. Tarasenko is a great player, but Bohmeister is another year older, and he's like their 2nd best defenseman. He's like 36 or something now. He's still good, but I just don't see this team being. I think this is the year where they were always knocking on the door, and then this is going to be the year where they kind of fall off. And then last place, obviously, I have the Avalanche. Unless like they get amazing goaltending from Varlamov and they have like their only 4 good players play like really well, then they're not going to do anything. So that's my thoughts on the Central. You're fair enough to critique me. What do you guys think about some of my picks there, like Winnipeg?
Listen, I do not understand you guys and your love for the Dallas Stars. All these offensive players and Ken Hitchcock are not going to get along. Brett Hull one day went on a breakaway and actually had to dump the puck in the corner.
You know why Sagan's not going to care, Kev?
The Russian God will not.
The Russian God is a god. Damn it. Okay? He's going to score. He's going to score, then he's going to selly. Okay?
He's a devil.
Hey, Sagan.
Not allowed to score. You're not allowed to score in offense.
Okay, but Sagan's not going to get mad because he's too busy stealing the opposite team's girlfriends to worry about that stuff. Right, Anna?
Okay. I mean, valid point. I don't know why you asked me for that, but
100%. Right, John?
Well, okay, so I see what he's saying. and the past kind of like says it. Ken Hitchcock has had his.
Don't.
No.
Fall
Let me
into
keep going.
schemes.
Let me keep going. But
Okay.
Dallas is too much. Dallas is too much to. Did he cut out there?
No, he just muted.
Oh, okay.
He just mute. Yeah, he does that. It's all good.
So Dallas is too much to be, I think, slowed down. They have their depth. They have Mitch said it himself. He has Sagan, Spezza, and Hansel down the middle. I mean, their defense aren't the best. They have Klingberg. I mean, Kev, I can't see Hitchcock being make it or break it thing. I think they got at least a wild card spot in that division.
Well, how do you explain the Blues being 21-9 after Hitchcock left?
No, I know, and I just it's a tough question to answer, but I think the Blues still could have made the playoffs with Hitchcock. But I think at the end of the day, we're looking at two different teams. I think Dallas is on paper, looking right now, a way better team than St. Louis is. But I think, like we said, the addition of Bishop, I think at least a wild card team at this point. It would be hard to say no.
Anna, your thoughts on that?
I think they do better without Hitchcock, but I don't think he's enough to slow them down. I'm going to agree with Kev here. I do see a little bit of disputes between the forwards and their attitudes and Ken Hitchcock. Definitely see that happening, but like John said, on paper, they have a really good team. They made really good moves in the offseason. They have a lot of depth. They got some really good players, and I feel like they could have done better, and I might have put them higher if they had a different coach, but wild card for sure, minimum, just based off of on paper.
Oh, and Mitch, for sure, you're going to see at least 3 or 4 like decent arguments between Sagan and Hitchcock. Like it's inevitable. Like it's going to happen.
Yeah, whatever. He's still going to score 80 points, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, Sagan will shrug it off, go party, and then go score 3 goals the next night.
Yeah, whatever. And Jamie Benn's going to have a huge year this year.
Oh, for sure. 80, 90 points at least.
Okay. So that's where we stand in the Central. Let's get to the Pacific. I'm just going to get to Kev. Kev, go ahead.
Well, this is okay. This is interesting because there's a number of different ways that you can go. The Alberta route, or you can go the California route in determining your division pick. This is how I'm going to pick the regular season. Again, this is the regular season. I'm going to pick the Oilers first. When you have the second best player in the National Hockey League, you are ahead of everybody else. You have another guy that really stepped up in Leon Draisaitl. You have a goalie that can play 70 games. If he doesn't play 70 games, my God, they're in trouble. I'm concerned about the depth of their defense. I'm also actually, quite frankly, concerned the depth of their forwards. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I do think Milan Lucic has taken a step back, but you have Connor McDavid. That is 100 points. That's a 100-point team. Second, and I'm about to say something that's going to sound biased, but I think you need to hear me out. 2 things. It is interesting that Jaromir Jagr turned away from the Blues and signed with the Flames to play third-line minutes for $1 million.
The Flames are better.
They are better. And I actually would argue right now, on paper, we'll get into other things. On paper, they are the most complete in conference. On paper. That doesn't mean anything at this point.
I don't see it, Kev.
But okay, well, we'll argue about that after. I have the Flames second at this point. The big question is always with Calgary. 2 quick questions. Can you win in Anaheim? They haven't won since 2004 in Anaheim. It affects them in the playoffs, and their goaltending, of course, is another issue. I'm in third. I think that they have taken a step back from the other 2, but we'll get into where I think their advantage is. Fourth, I have San Jose. I think the loss of Marleau may not hurt them as bad as you think, but I think San Jose still has the depth. They have a good goaltender. They have a top defenseman. I have them making the playoffs. So I have 4. I'm 4-4. I have 4 Central, 4 Pacific. Fifth, I have the Kings. There's a lot that they lost there, but I think it's going to be exciting. They're going to allow to do some of those newfangled things like shoot the puck at the net and forward passing, things that they were not allowed to do under Darryl Sutter. So those are nice. That's going to be nice. 6th, I have the Arizona Coyotes. Improvements. They still don't make the playoffs, but there's some improvements. 7th, the Vancouver Canucks, and it's not going to be as bad as people think. I think Travis Green has turned his team around. This makes sense. He's not necessarily blowing smoke as he doesn't in press conference.
Kev!
But I have him in 7th. And did you lose me again?
Kids, this is what happens when you do a video in a mall. Go ahead.
Canucks
We
7th.
lost you for a bit.
Okay.
Canucks?
7th,
Don't you usually say Canucks?
The Canucks.
Yes.
I'm from Calgary, but the Canucks will finish 7th, but it's not going to be as bad as people think. And I have the Golden Knights, of course, at the start, finishing in last. There you go.
Okay. I'll have some stuff to say about that. Anna.
All right. So I want the California route. I said the Ducks were going to finish first in the Pacific. Honestly, I just think it's because of how much depth they have. Like, Raquel had such an amazing season last season. I think he's only going to do better this season. Amazing playoff run. And they're just a solid team overall. So first in the regular season is an easy feat for them to accomplish. Second, I have the Oilers. Once again, they have a lot of star players. They're okay in net, but they don't have that same amount of depth. And you just got to think, if one of their stars gets injured, the entire team is down. So just because they're not as reliable as the Ducks, I have them on second. But then again, they have Connor McDavid, so that's a big plus, which is why they're number 2. Third, I have the Flames. I hope that makes you happy, Kev. It's pretty high up there. So I think the Flames are actually they could go pretty far this season. Honestly, they got a little help in their goaltending situation. They got Mike Smith from the Coyotes, and if he performs well, that's really going to help them out. They have Matthew Tkachuk, played really well last season, could be a big factor for them, and they got a lot of good depth, a lot of young guys that could really help them out. So that's why I have the Flames at 3rd. I have the Sharks at 4th. I don't think Marleau leaving impacted them that much. They have Brent Burns, they have Joe Pavelski, they have the same players that have been performing well the last few seasons, but there's nothing special about them that I see that could help them beat like how tough all the teams in the West are this year. The Kings I have at 5. It honestly depends on how well Drew Doughty or Anze Kopitar perform. Like, it depends on their performance. They don't have that much depth. They have a few star players. If they play well, they'll go far. I have the Yotes at 6. I think their goaltending situation improved in the offseason. We'll see how that pays off for them. I actually have the Knights at 7. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
There we go. I was waiting for that reaction. I have the Knights at 7. Okay, that means your Canucks are at 8.
You do realize, I think you did this on purpose, but you do realize
a little bit, yeah.
that the Knights are literally trying to lose every game.
No, I just wanted to throw it in the water because let's be honest, the 2 teams who I think in the league that could possibly finish below the Knights, not that I'm 100% sure it's going to happen, but even possibly finish below the Knights, Avalanche and Canucks. So I'm just going to put it out there. Think the Canucks are in shambles. Think the Knights might not have the biggest chance, but that's going to be my little controversial pick for the Western Conference.
No comment. John?
Okay, let me just comment on that. I think the Canucks have prevented them from coming last because of the fact of their signings like Vanek, Gagne.
Because they're stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of trying to actually rebuild the actual way, so I respect their decision on keeping the Sedins and the Sedins wanting to be there. That's one factor on why they will not come last place. They'll still be bad. Don't get me wrong, but they will not come last place. The Golden Knights are an AHL team. They got a couple NHLers, but
I don't know.
Bad.
Could they win the WHL? I'm not sure.
Thanks, Mitch.
Okay, so anyways, first I got the Oilers. I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl, they're the next duo in the league. They're gonna get 100 points easily, in my opinion. Second, I have the Flames. Like we keep on repeating ourselves, defense wins. They got arguably the
look at Kev.
I think the best defense in the league, Kev. So I like the Flames defense a lot. And like Anna was saying, if Mike Smith can handle himself, they're in for a good season. And then I think third, it's the Ducks. I really like their depth. Silverberg, Raquel, name it. And I still like their defense. Their defense is still up there in the league. And I don't know. I have the Ducks third. I actually have both my wild cards out of the Central. So fourth, missing the playoffs, are the Kings. I'm a big Drew Doughty fan, but
Same.
I think the Kings have slowly deteriorated over the last couple of years, and they have those horrible contracts of Gaborik and Brown, so that doesn't help them. Then fifth, I have San Jose. Sixth, I have who's there?
Zona, Vancouver.
Yeah, so I have Arizona.
Vancouver.
Yeah, so I have Arizona, and then I have Vancouver, and then Vegas is not even close. So,
Okay.
I mean,
It would be
sorry, I don't think
It'll be
the
hilarious
Canucks-
if Vegas beats the Canucks.
Just you wait. It's gonna happen. Vegas. I'm gonna be 100% right, and you're all gonna be like, "Oh."
Okay. You always say that though. We'll see. We'll see.
I
We'll see
admit
about
it's
that.
a long shot. Okay, I admit it's a long shot.
Yeah.
But it could happen. That's the one team in the West that could finish.
No, see, Anna,
Vegas.
I think Vancouver and Arizona are going to compete in a lot of close games, where I think Vegas, you're going to see a lot of blowout games. I'm sorry. I think it's going to happen. You're going to see some 7-0 games or 6-0.
And there's going
I
to be
think
like
there's gonna be a
half the
couple.
crowd like there, and the other half will be drunk.
Oh, no. But, Mitch, the
The one thing that I will say,
yeah.
though, is I do think the Golden Knights have the better goalie.
Oh,
Oh,
For
by
sure.
far. I
For
think that's
sure.
the worst starting
For
goalie in the
sure,
entire
for
league.
sure. Fleury will
That's
keep them
fact.
in like an odd game or two because of
And-
Fleury.
And then they have my boy, the overrated James Neal. So we'll see.
He is overrated.
And he's injured. He's injured for the start
He
of the
is
season.
injured. He is injured. But we'll see eventually.
They should have. I still think they should have signed Yager, not because he would have helped them win, but because he would have helped sell jerseys, merchandise, and tickets. But that's just me.
Let Yager retire in peace, Mitch.
Mitch, where do
I secretly want him to come back to Pittsburgh.
That would be so great. That would be the best way for Yager to get out.
we were
What's up,
we
John?
were talking last episode about Pittsburgh's missing that third center.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a possibility that Duchesne goes there in a trade?
They've been talking about it, but it's just a matter of who they would give up.
Yeah.
And like how much cap they would have to move. But they've been definitely talking about it. They've been interested. The name that I've heard the most is actually Jordan Stahl coming back. So
Wait, Jordan
Just a
Stahl
Yeah.
yeah, Jordan Stahl
Really?
coming back to the Penguins.
going back to
Yeah.
the Pens. Wow. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
that's what I've heard. That's the biggest rumor I've heard. Him and Duchesne have been the ones that have been connected the most.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Also, Leafs fans want Bozak to go to Pittsburgh, but
Yeah.
Okay, so Pacific. My first place team, I'm going to say this. Listen to it very carefully. The Oilers in the regular season will finish first place in the Pacific. Okay? They are the equivalent to the Green Bay Packers of the NFL. They are Aaron Rodgers. They are Connor McDavid. That player will lead them as far as they can until they face a team that is just better than them. And one player can't overcome a great team in any sport, maybe besides basketball, but that's besides the point. So the Oilers are great. They have McDavid and they have a great duo there. What's shaping up to be the next Crosby-Malkin duo. But I just don't feel like they have the same complement around those players that they did in the past in Pittsburgh, in Edmonton quite yet. I'm still a little sketchy in the goaltending situation, especially the depth there. Like you guys have been bringing up, the defensive depth is a little sketchy as well. And they lost a guy like Eberle. I'm still not sold on Hopkins, Nugent Hopkins, to play second or third line center. I feel like second line center, he's being overrated in that position because I don't think he scores enough. And third line center, he's out of place because he's not defensive enough to play that position. So I feel like they need to find a different player in that role. So that's the Oilers, but the Oilers will be good and they'll finish first in the Pacific. Second, it was between the Flames and Anaheim, but I went with Anaheim. I think a lot of people overlook the fact that Anaheim's actually won this division, I think like 5 years in a row. So they've been very consistent, especially in the regular season. But I do think that with Anaheim, they do have a couple of older players that kind of wait till playoff time to really start playing, and that Getzlaf and Kessler and those sort of players. Kessler's hurt, so that's going to definitely hurt them right off the bat. But Anaheim has a great core of defense that's very underrated. The goaltending situation is their weak point, in my opinion. They have some. They're a team that is like the kryptonite for the Flames, as Kev said, as Kev leaves, because they're fast, they're big, and they're strong, and the Flames don't really seem to handle that quite well. But the Ducks, I think, are going to be one of the biggest contenders in the West. Then you have the Flames, and I think you guys are all right. And I kind of wanted to wait for Kev for this, but the Flames, they have good defense. I think they're in the top 5 there. They have great depth at that position. I think Johnny Gaudreau will have a bounce-back season, and that will kind of benefit the entire offense as a whole. On your point about Tkachuk, Anna, he should be a Canuck. So literally, like that whole draft, I was like, they need to take Tkachuk, they need to take Tkachuk, they need to take Tkachuk. They took some bum from Sweden. This is why I don't cheer for the Canucks all the time, right? Because they do this stupid crap like that. Okay. 4th, I have San Jose. I think they're just a better version of the Kings at this point in time. They have a good goalie, which the Kings don't always have their goalie. Defensively, I think Burns is a dynamic offensive player that is not really seen around the league. He's different from even a Carlson in the way that he scores goals. Their forwards are just better. I think they're younger and they're a little bit more in their prime, like Couture, Pavelski. You still have a guy like Thornton who still produces points. Their wingers is a weak point, and if they could get a better play from there, they could make the playoffs still. At the 5th spot, I have the Kings because they're, like I said, they're the worst version of the Sharks. And I love Doughty, but the guy plays 59 minutes a night for some reason because no one else can play on their team. Arizona is 6th for me because they're young, they're talented, they have way more upside than the Canucks. They have a guy like Ekman Larson, who's the best player by far out of the 2 teams. And they did get that Rangers center that I talked about. The Canucks will finish 7th, but I think they could actually contend for 6th. I think they're more closer to contending for 6th than they are for last, to be honest with you, because like John said, they try and contend even when they suck because their ownership is terrible. So they sign like these players like Sam Gagner, Thomas Van, like for no reason, just to fill their salary cap. Kev leaves again. And, they do this stuff, and then they don't even sign their best player from a season ago, which was Ryan Miller, which, by the way, I should bring that up for the Ducks. The Ducks have 2 goalies now, which will help them a lot in the playoffs. But the Canucks, they don't have a goalie, which is going to lose them a lot of games straight up. And their defense is a little bit better, I think, with like Del Zotto and that they added. Their forwards, I think a guy like Brock will come in and he'll play well. And I really like Granlund. I think he's going to be a good player. And Horvat should take another step. So I think some of their younger players will play better, but they're just not good enough, especially at goalie. So, but like I said, Kev, I think the Canucks are closer to contending for 6th than they are for 8th. How do you feel about that? Are you here?
Yes, I am. And this is the thing with the Canucks, I think Travis Green has a structure. I think the lines will make sense. I think the Sedins will be playing with Vanek, and Horvat and Berchi will be playing together. Granlund and Besser will be playing together. So the lines make a little bit sense. Their defense actually isn't that terrible, and I think Pouliot will help. Their goaltending will be interesting.
No, he won't. No, he won't.
He'll help a little bit.
He can't play defense. I mean, he could score.
Yeah, I don't think they're expecting a huge heck of a lot from him, though. So I think he can help a little bit. I think the thing that's going to be interesting with the Canucks is the last 2 years, and I've lived in Vancouver for 2 years, the last 2 years, the team just has played with, like, no passion, no desire, no heart, really. Like, and this year I think that they're going to play with that. So I think that that's going to be better. I think Green has got a structure in there that makes sense. I think this is Adam said this to me in a message. This year is going to prove that Willie Desjardins was a disaster in the era for the Canucks.
He was terrible.
It was terrible. Yeah, it really was. And I know Fitty Trent isn't here, but I've said this all the time. I appreciate and understand why the Sedins want to be here, and I think it was a poignant article that they wrote in the Players Tribune. But I think that they missed the boat on trading the Sedins, and I think that this is what's going to be hamstring the franchise for a couple of years. Their poor drafting and the fact that they didn't really look at the option of trading the Sedins, I think has hurt them, because I think you would have got a lot for them.
I've always agreed with you. I thought they should have traded them back in like 2012, 2013, when they were like good value still, but they were just a little bit past their prime, and they could have went somewhere where they could have won a cup.
Yeah.
I think they should have traded them.
Mitch, I agree. They should have traded him a couple of years ago, because now it's gotten to the point where you might as well retire with the team that you spent your whole career with. So,
yeah, exactly.
No, I agree.
So that's our thoughts on Pacific Division, the Central Division. I did talk about your Flames, Kev. You weren't here. I think I put in some good words for them, but I have them finishing third in the regular season. How do you feel about that?
That's a reasonable argument. I can see. I mean, they haven't won in Anaheim, so I can see why you're putting them in third place. They haven't. They have to win in Anaheim. They're right now, basically, you could argue they're 0-3 to start the season because they have 3 losses in Anaheim because they can't win there.
Yeah. Okay. Western Conference Final. Who do we have, Anna?
Ooh, in the Western Conference Final. So the positions that I actually put them in, like to end the season, is not necessarily who I believe is going to go to the finals. So from the Pacific, I have Oilers going to the finals. And from the Central, I have the Hawks going to the finals. Because I think once the playoffs start, things are going to be a little bit different than how they're going to perform in the regular season. And then after that, should I say my Stanley Cup?
Yeah, go ahead. No, wait.
Okay, don't go ahead.
Okay. Your Western Conference Final, your Western Conference winner, and then we'll do the Stanley Cup after.
Okay, my Western Conference Final, like I said, Oilers-Hawks. My Western Conference winner, the Oilers. So my Stanley Cup Final, Oilers-Penguins, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby.
Everybody wants that. John?
I got Pacific, I got Oilers, and Central, I got, Kevin's not going to like this, but I have the Stars.
Oh! Can you explain that?
I know you keep saying the Hitchcock thing, but...
why do you think they'll be successful in the playoffs like that?
Because, every team that in the playoffs, you need to have those star-studded players. They have Sagan, they have Jamie Benn, who can lead a team. They have Radulov, your Russian star. They have Spezza. They have Hansel. They have their depth. Their defense is a little bit shaky, but look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh went all the way with Justin Schultz being their best defenseman.
Ron Hainsey was great.
Ron Hainsey was going to be good for Toronto, too.
Oh, I agree. But look, defense wins. But when offense is that good,
really bad. Go ahead, John.
I'm just saying, and the league might be turning this way. Right now it's defense, but if you have that good of an offense, I don't think you can turn away from the Dallas Stars. I think the Dallas Stars are going to do well in the playoffs. I think if they run into a team like Nashville, they actually might have some problems. Mm-hmm. But I think if Dallas comes first or second in the division, if they don't come into the wild card, I think they have a chance of going to the Eastern Conference Final.
Okay.
Oh, do you want me to say all the way to my Cup Final?
Who's winning?
Who's winning?
Oilers or
the Stars?
Stars.
Oh, Oilers, for sure.
Okay.
Well, for me, I'm a little bit different, and it's not how you start; it's how you finish. So in the Central Division, I have the Nashville Predators going back to the Western Conference Final. I just think that they're the team to beat. I think they have the experience. I think they have the depth. I think they have the goaltending. I think they have the way to beat Chicago. I think they're in Chicago's heads, and they will do it again. In the Pacific, I have the Ducks of Anaheim going back, so I have a rematch. I just think that you look at Ryan Getzlaf, I think he's the best playoff performer in that division. He was a difference maker in the Calgary series. He was a difference maker in the Edmonton series. They also neither team could really contain Ryan Kessler. That's another problem. And I just think that experience, and I know, Mitch, you mentioned that they've won 5 division titles in a row. That division, that knowledge of winning is going to be the difference. And this is going to shock you, but I have the Ducks in the final. I think that this time they get it done. I think this time, this is one of those last shots, the last deals for the Ducks. And this is an all-in moment for Getzlaf, Perry, Kessler. And this is their opportunity, and I think they're going to take advantage of it. And I think they're going to the Stanley Cup Final.
Kev, did you steal my notes too?
No, I know. Did you steal mine?
Why are you stealing my lyrics, bro?
You steal my lyrics. You stole my lyrics.
Anyways, my Western Conference Final, I have the Oilers versus I have the okay, so how would it work? So we have the Oilers who's in first, and then we have the Ducks who's in second. So they would have to play in the second round. So I have the Ducks. Is that me?
That's me, probably.
Okay, I hear like a weird echo. Okay, so the Ducks would be in the Western Conference Final. I want to put the Predators in there as well because I feel like the Oilers and the Ducks are probably the 2 teams that I could see going to the final, but I think they'll have to play each other similarly.
No, Mitch, sorry. The only way that the Oilers and Ducks can play each other is if you have the Oilers first, the Ducks would have to fall into a wild card.
Yeah, so that's what I mean,
in
right?
the second round, they can play with each other.
What I'm saying is they'll play in the second round. So it's going to be like Washington-Pittsburgh was, where I think the best team is playing in the second round. So that team that wins the second round will go to the Cup. So that's what I think is going to happen. And I just think that the Ducks, they have too much depth. And like I said a little bit earlier, I just think that they're the superior team. And I think, McDavid is great and all. But I just look at Anaheim and like Kev said, Oilers still haven't proven that they can get over that hump yet. And maybe they will. But I think their defense, their goaltending, just too many question marks about their team that tells me that they're a Stanley Cup representative from this conference. Maybe the Aaron Rodgers of the NHL is enough to get them there, but I just don't see it quite yet. So I have the Ducks, and then I guess I would have to go with I don't want to say the Predators, but I think they're going to be in the conversation. I'm going to go with the Wild because I feel like the Wild as a complete team in the playoffs, if they get the goaltending and they get a little bit more scoring than they did last year, I think it's going to be kind of that battle between teams that are going for their last shot at the promised land, and the Wild and the Ducks. I think the Wild might just upset the Predators a round before that, but I just don't see Chicago, guys. I don't see Chicago there because I'm not a huge fan of Chicago right now. I don't quite see the Flames there, even though I think they could surprise some people. And definitely I see the Predators. They could get there, but that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the Ducks versus the Wild, and I have the Ducks going to the Cup Final versus the Penguins. So we're going to get Penguins versus Ducks. Okay. Let's
Am
go.
I the only one that did not pick the Penguins in the East? I think I am.
John picked the Lightning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we picked Lightning. Okay.
So it's 2-2. So Anna, go ahead and tell us who's going to win the Stanley Cup. How many games? You could give us your Conn Smythe, whatever you want to, and your reasoning.
Okay. I think the Penguins are going to win the Stanley Cup, and I know this is kind of an iffy statement to say, but honestly, if you just pretend like they didn't win the last 2 Stanley Cups in a row and they were coming into the season fresh just by looking at their team, looking at their stats, looking at their depth, they would be the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. And the only thing that I think could deter them from actually winning would be the mental game, would be how much pressure they would have to get 3 in a row and do a 3-peat. And that's the only thing that I see as a con. But honestly, if they play their game well, they have Chris Letang again. They have a bunch of stars that can really pull through for them in clutch times. I think they're going to win. Against the Blackhawks, I think the Blackhawks are going to do pretty well this season, but I don't think it's going to go to 7. I think the Penguins are going to win in 6. For Conn Smythe, this is an iffy one because they always give it to Sidney Crosby, but so I'm going to say Sidney Crosby just to be a safe bet, but there were definitely people who deserve it who could get it on the Penguins other than Sidney Crosby. But realistically, I think he's going to be the Conn Smythe winner. So Penguins for a 3-peat. There we go.
So you're being safe with your Conn Smythe pick, but you're being bold about the Knights and the Canucks.
So I put it out there. I was just like, you know what? I want to throw something iffy out there. I was like, do I think it's going to happen? No. But I just want to give the Vegas Knights the 0.001% chance of it happening. I'm going to give them some credit. Give my boy Fleury some credit down in Vegas.
Oh, that's what it is. It's the flower. That's what it is. Okay. John.
Am I up next? Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you guys are iffy about it, but I have the Oilers winning the Stanley Cup. I think it's going to go to 7 versus the Lightning. I think it's the most obvious statement of saying McDavid for Conn Smythe. I just, like I said, I think McDavid and Draisaitl as a tandem, as a duo. Sorry, they're too skilled and they're young and they're fast. And I think both of them are going to crack 30 goals each. I think Cam Talbot was great for them last year. I think Klefbom and Larson, even though they don't bring the most offense, I think they're both solid. And I think they got a lot of depth. And it says something that Puljujarvi, a guy like that, who went 3rd overall a couple years ago, got cut from the team. I think they have a lot of young guys coming up. I think their prospect pool is better than it's ever been. And I really like the Oilers for the Cup.
What does it say that Yamamoto has made the team and PRV did not?
Are you asking me if that's a surprise or?
I think PRV is going to be a bust.
I don't know. I would tend to disagree. I think a lot of prospects are different in the way of some. I know this is kind of my Leaf instincts to bring this up, but look how long Nazem Kadri took to develop. I know he's not as high as a pick, but now that he put up 30 goals last year. So I think Puljujarvi is going to be a top 6 forward. I think it's just going to take a couple years to develop.
But I always look back to that draft a couple years ago in Columbus. It was so obvious to everyone that they were taking Puljujarvi because they had the Finnish GM, and he stepped away and actually tried to trade out of that pick. I don't know. I don't think that PRV is the hype that people think. But we'll see.
Kev, stop stalling. Get to your pick, Kev.
Well, we're going to put it with his pick. He hasn't picked his Conn Smythe yet.
Oh,
no,
you said
McDavid. But Kev, no, I wanted to ask you. Then, okay, so what's your thoughts on Dubois? Because a lot of people are thinking Dubois might be a bust by this point.
He might be a bust. Yeah, I mean the best. Who was that round? That was the.
That was the Tkachuk.
Pick?
Wasn't that Tkachuk draft?
Yeah, Tkachuk.
Yeah.
Tkachuk was, and that was Matthews, Line, and then Dubois, PRV, and then the Flames. Tkachuk, and then the Canucks took Ulevy.
The Canucks picked Ulevy, and the Flames picked Tkachuk. I'll never forget that, Kev.
Mitch is still upset about it.
Neither will I. Tkachuk.
Okay, Kev.
Well, no. Now that we're looking at it, Tkachuk really should have gone 3rd. Do you guys disagree with me on that, or?
It's too early to decide.
Is it too early?
Yeah, probably. Maybe next year we'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, I am picking, and so I have the Lightning versus the Ducks, and I believe in my heart of hearts that the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Anna, you brought this up, if you take away the 2 cups in a row and just put Pittsburgh versus Tampa Bay, I actually would pick Tampa Bay based on their depth, their defense, and their goaltending. I think that they're actually stronger than the Penguins. Without
how is their goaltending stronger?
They have a.
How is their scoring stronger? Either?
I'll give you defense, but
but like
Kucherov,
nothing else.
Crosby, Malkin.
I agree with Kev. Tampa's depth is pretty serious.
Yeah,
like 1 to 4 lines, they're pretty serious, I would say.
Yeah.
But like scoring though.
Scoring wise, definitely.
No, not scoring. Not
necessarily scoring, but in terms of forward depth, yeah.
Forward depth.
Okay. Yeah. We'll let you slide on that one.
Okay. And I think that the Tampa Bay Lightning will be raising the cup. I think they will do it in 6 games, and I think that this will be the arrival of Victor Hedman. I think he's the guy that will win the Conn Smythe. I think he's going to be considered one of the best defensemen in the NHL, and I think he's going to be.
He already is.
He will win the Norris this year. So I'm going with
Okay.
Victor Hedman.
Double decker. Okay. For me, it's Penguins, Ducks, of course. And I feel like an ass, of course. But
No, you don't.
I'm
You're wearing
going
the
with the
shirt.
Pittsburgh Penguins again. I was right 2 years in a row. I'm going with it again. And this is only because, like, I look at every team in the league. And like Anna said, I just look at this, and it's trying to be unbiased. But I look at this, and I'm like, there's not many teams that can beat them. I know their experience. I know when it comes playoff time, they're going to make the adjustments no matter what happens, like we saw last year, to beat that team, to get over the hump, to get past injuries. I don't see any team that's able to adapt in any situation better than the Penguins. I don't think anybody has more experience. I don't think anybody's better in bigger games. I don't think anybody works harder in those games and does the little things to win because of Coach Mike Sullivan, because of Captain Sidney Crosby than the Penguins. I think that's why the Penguins win the Cup. I think the Ducks will put up a decent fight. I think their defense will slow down the Penguins a little bit, but I think their goaltending will be kind of their weak point, and I think that's where the Penguins will take advantage. I think they'll win in 6 games, and I think they'll three-peat. And I'm going to say that the Norris is Christopher Letang in this one.
The Conn Smythe? You mean is Christopher Letang?
Or the Conn Smythe, not Norris, Conn Smythe, yeah. I actually think the Norris could be Hedman as well, but Conn Smythe is going to be. So, yeah, I had Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay, and I actually think that one of those teams is going to win the Cup, but I think it's going to be Pittsburgh. So, yeah, that's our NHL Western Conference preview for 2017. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button. Gronk spiked the like button. Subscribe to the channel for more NHL content. With John, Anna, and Kev, it's been Mitch.